My name is Sabrina Moyle. I'm 40 years old, mother of 3, and owner of a small business. I'm also a swing voter. I'm here to speak to you about the importance of TPP. I'd like to first tell you a little bit more about me. As the owner of Hello Lucky, I manufacture beautiful letterpress American-made greeting cards. And our mission as a business is not only to thrive financially, but also to change people's hearts and minds. Our products allow our customers to connect to their inner creativity, to feel joy and laughter, and also to forge more authentic connections with the friends and families that they love. Prior to starting Hello Lucky 10 years ago, I graduated from Stanford Graduate School of Business, and I also worked for the Bridgespan Group, a nonprofit consulting firm that has national and international reach, where I worked with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on developing their education strategy for transforming public K-12 education in the United States and lifting graduation rates to 80% by 2020. Prior to Bridgespan, I had experience in the state government and also in local government working in the arts and arts education. My background as a person began in Maryland, where my father worked for the Foreign Service, for the State Department, and extended all over the world, where I have traveled through about 30 countries and spent a good deal of my life in childhood in Taiwan and China. So I personally am very passionate and understand the importance of America taking the lead on international trade and the overall economy, because I know firsthand what life is like under a communist regime and also under a Chinese authority. My father, Joseph Moyle, was a Foreign Service officer who worked for the State Department and was stationed primarily in Asia. I grew up in Taiwan, and I grew up in China. I lived in Beijing in the late 80s, just prior to the Tiananmen massacre, where my father was a political officer at the embassy. And I witnessed firsthand the effects of communism on the populace there, as well as the beginning emerging hope presented by open markets. My mother is from Taiwan. She was born in China, and her family fled the communists in 1949 to go to Taiwan, where her father became a decorated war hero. When Madam Secretary Penny Pritzker came to San Francisco, she noted that there are 3 major concerns regarding TPP that your constituents have voiced. And I'd like to address them one by one. The first concern, and these are all valid, legitimate, understandable concerns. The first concern is that small and medium-sized business owners don't care about trade. She argued that Congress understands that trade is about creating jobs, and thus people should care because it's about creating jobs. And what I would like to observe is that free trade and reducing barriers to export are critically important to small and medium-sized business owners if the issue is framed in the right way. So Madam Secretary said small-sized business owners don't care about exports. They don't care about this bill. Okay. And I would argue, yeah, it's true. They don't really care about this bill as it's being framed. And why don't they care? Because the bill is being framed as about jobs, in part. That's the first reason. Why do each of us get up and go to work every day? Why do we found the companies we found? Why do we do what we do? We get up for 2 reasons. One, we get up to go to work because we have bills to pay. There's a financial incentive, a very real and pragmatic incentive. The second has to do with hearts and minds. We go to work because we believe that through our jobs, we will express ourselves and create meaning for the people we impact and create value to make our life meaningful. This incentive is the same at a collective level. It's the same for every individual employee who comes to work for us, and it's the same for the organization or company as a whole. Why do companies exist and grow and move forward? It's because on the one hand, they're generating economic value, and on the other hand, they're delivering a product or service they fundamentally believe is of value to society, to communities, and to the American people, and potentially even globally. That's the passion and vision of companies, small and medium-sized businesses included. So in order to get your constituents to care about the bill, you need to frame it in terms of what they care about, which is the health of their company and their ideals, the ideals embodied in their products. Another reason why small and medium-sized business owners may appear not to care about TPP as it's currently being framed is because we live in a continental economy. America is such a large market, it's so full of opportunity, and it's so easy to do business across borders within the United States that most small and medium-sized businesses are simply overwhelmed by the opportunity within our continent and don't have the bandwidth to look abroad. They're prioritizing America as a market because it's easy to do business in America, and they're not prioritizing exporting because they're small businesses and they are resource constrained. The third reason is that for those small businesses, myself included, who have attempted export, we have faced many challenges and barriers, from high shipping costs to tariffs and duties and understanding tax and legal code overseas, etc. So those of us who have tried have gotten a little bit overwhelmed. The fourth reason is that many of us don't know what the demand might be for our products overseas. We think it may be there, but there's not a lot of data being presented to us about the opportunity and about the demand. And so we just simply don't know what we don't know, and we choose to focus on what's in front of us, the pressing needs at hand of serving our local economy and our local customers, and potentially more broadly American customers. Once you are able to understand the small and medium-sized business owner's perspective, you will be able to engage them in a conversation that is much more useful and informative and gives you a true sense of their stance on TPP. They may agree with it or they may not, but you can't arrive at an authentic answer unless you engage them deeply and authentically on their terms. The second point that Madam Secretary made is that people don't understand, your constituents fail to understand that American products represent American values and ideals, ranging from liberty to freedom of expression to pursuit of happiness. And this, I would argue, is also likely true and is something that can be changed through a campaign of changing and touching hearts and minds, which luckily in this day and age with the media, social media and YouTube, is, and as many people have learned in their campaigns for political office, is actually remarkably cost effective to do now that we have the internet. So this is a surmountable challenge, easily surmountable, I would argue. In order to get your voting constituents, who are small and medium-sized business owners, to understand that their products represent American ideals, you need to put them in their customers' shoes. They all exist to keep their customers happy and to serve their customers. Without their customers, they would have no business. So, we need to look at business and the potential for export from the customer's standpoint. Why might a customer overseas, in China, say, pick up an American product and decide to buy it instead of a Chinese-made product? Okay. Consumers, and all of us are consumers, internationally, globally, regardless of ethnicity, race, nationality, all of us are consumers. Consumers reach for a product and make their purchase choice based on 3 factors. The first is the usefulness of that product. It fulfills a real and pressing need that they have. The second is the affordability of that product. It needs to be affordable given their background, and affordability is different by definition depending on who the consumer is. The third is that that product or service somehow speaks to them, their hearts and minds, their beliefs and ideals about themselves and who they wish to be in the world. Once you understand that, you can have a campaign that activates the manufacturers by understanding the potential of trade for their customers. And I have proposals for that as well, but there are many ways to do this. So seeing it from the customer's point of view, what might an export mean for that customer who's out there in China or Taiwan or India? Imagine living in a society where you're afraid to speak your mind, where you're afraid to speak out, you're afraid to pursue your dreams. How crippling is that for the human spirit? I am deeply aware of the myriad differences between Chinese and American culture, having grown up at the nexus of those 2 cultures my entire life, within my family and in my community. I am also, with all due respect to the Chinese culture and people, and great love and compassion for them, aware of how historic events and decisions made by those in power, as well as elements of a beautiful cultural heritage that have perhaps become misguided, have led to an overall culture that is oppressive to the human spirit to a certain degree. The use of shame and face to control people, an inherent belief in the group as opposed to the individual, and a tendency towards conformity, and a historic belief in and natural affinity for financial gain and making money and for status. These are all qualities that the Chinese culture and people possess, which have fabulous benefits when used towards good, and significant negative impacts if combined with, I would argue, a confused leadership that cannot see the long-term damage that they are doing for their own people, the people whom they exist to serve, and for our human civilization at large. I'm not here to blame or to point fingers. I love China. I love my Chinese heritage. I just believe that we all need to come together in unity around our universal shared values, and that America is in a distinct position to be able to lead the way. Thank you for listening. I hope that we can all celebrate this coming Valentine's Day with love in our hearts, and that we can all govern and act from a place of love and compassion. And I hope that on this President's Day, we can all reflect back on the legacy of our great leaders, the legacy of our former presidents, regardless of a political affiliation, in furthering the cause of American ideals and values, regardless of setbacks, regardless of conflicts, and regardless of disagreements among individuals. To do what's right for the American people, and thus for yourselves as sworn representatives to God and country of the American people, as well as by extension to all of our friends throughout the world. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to the point of view of one informed and engaged voter. Thank you.